This lecture is going to cover the trachea and the bronchial tree. The trachea is also known as our windpipe. It is a flexible tubular passageway for air and is about 5 inches in length. It is located anterior to the esophagus. It extends downward from the larynx, immediately inferior to the cricoid cartilage to the sternal angle, which is at the level of the superior border of T5, or the 5th thoracic vertebrae. The structure of the trachea: the deep layer is composed of goblet cells that produce mucus. Contains ciliated cells which provide protection against dust particles. The cilia beat upward and move the dust mucus package to the throat for elimination. The outer wall is composed of about 16 to 20 incomplete C-shaped rings of hyaline cartilage stacked one on top of each other. The open part of the cartilage faces the esophagus. The solid part of the C provides a rigid support so the wall does not collapse inward and obstruct the passageway. It's composed of trachealis muscle, which is a transverse smooth muscle and elastic tissue that stabilizes the open ends of the cartilage. For those of you who vacuum, think of the wire in the hose. It keeps the hose open. If the wire wasn't there, the hose would collapse inward, obstructing the passageway. The termination or bifurcation of the trachea occurs at the sternal angle or angle of Lewis, which is at the level of T5. It will bifurcate at this point into the right and left primary bronchi. The function of the trachea is to transport air into the right and left primary bronchi. The bronchial tree. As the bronchi enter and extend into the lungs, they become progressively smaller tubes. As they get smaller, the diameter is reduced. As this happens, the amount of cartilage in the tube decreases while the amount of smooth muscle increases. Since the walls are composed of smooth muscle, it gives them the ability to dilate or enlarge, or to constrict, which means to become smaller, bronchodilate and bronchoconstrict, respectively. The right and left primary bronchi are the first portion of the bronchial tube. Each goes into their respective lung. They subdivide into secondary or lobar bronchi once they are in the lung. Let's take a look at the differences between the right and the left primary bronchi. The right primary bronchus is shorter, wider, and more vertical than the left. Aspirated objects are more likely to enter and lodge in the right primary bronchus than the left. Food or liquid that get into the trachea is more likely to enter the right lung via the right primary bronchus. In diagram 10, it will show the primary, secondary, and tertiary bronchi. Notice how the trachea bifurcates into the right and left secondary bronchi. Secondary bronchi are colored in blue, while tertiary bronchi are colored in purple. The structure of the primary bronchi is the same basic makeup as the trachea. 1. It has an epithelial layer, a pseudo-stratified ciliated columnar epithelium. 2. The fibromuscular structure. The trachealis muscle and elastic connective tissue hold open the ends of the cartilage rings. And 3. Cartilaginous, meaning it contains incomplete rings of cartilage. Secondary bronchi are also known as lobar bronchi. There is one secondary bronchi for each lobe of the lung. The right lung has 3 lobes, therefore it has 3 secondary bronchi. The left lung has 2 lobes, therefore it has 2 secondary bronchi. The secondary or lobar bronchi will branch into smaller tertiary or segmental bronchi. Tertiary bronchi, known as segmental bronchi, there are 10 tertiary bronchi for each lung, and the area that they supply in the lung is known as the bronchopulmonary segment. They will then divide into bronchioles. Bronchioles. These are small bronchi, and they will branch repeatedly, and the smallest bronchiole branched into even smaller tubes called terminal bronchioles. This extensive branching from the trachea resembles a tree trunk with its branches and is commonly referred to as the bronchial tree. So from the trachea to the alveolar ducts, there are about 25 orders of branching.